Hey, it's Jazz, and this is Giving Up the Ghost podcast. Thank you so much for coming back and listening to our collection of episodes. We've covered everything from A to Z. I'm talking from ghosts to specters, black-eyed children. Like, we cover it all, man, I tell you. So we primarily concentrate on Winnipeg and Manitoba ghost stories. If you're not familiar with us, thank you for checking us out for the first time. And if you've returned, you know our shtick. You know what we do. You know who we are. We know everything about nothing and nothing about everything. Me and my pod partner, Cher, love her to bits. Hopefully we'll get together soon, with winter and stuff, and things get a little more quieter. We can sit down and have a couple wobbly pops and talk about some scary shit, right? You know what I'm saying? In any event, lately, most of the episodes have been our spirits with spirits. It's sort of like the gem in our paranormal crown. And thank you to our beautiful co-hosts, Ashley and Kelly from the Winnipeg Paranormal Group. Bringing their wealth of knowledge and experience to these nights is something no one can compare to. Love them to bits, and we appreciate all they do for us. So we did July 30th, we had Matthew Komus, and then of course we had the open night mic part of the night. And today's episode is our interview with Matthew Komus, and he is the local Winnipeg author of Haunted Winnipeg and Haunted Manitoba. He is also the proprietor of the Ghost Walk in the Exchange for the last 15 years. Check out his website, book a tour, buy a book. Anyway, so that's tonight's interview. Next week will be the open mic portion. And again, thank you to everybody who comes up to the mic and tells us their own personal story. Because, we're just here to all share information and try and understand this thing we call ghosts, right? So, we've all had our own experiences to some extent and just trying to figure things out. And thank you for all the brave souls that have come up to the mic to share their experiences. We're truly grateful for that. Our next event will be August 27th at the King's Head Pub, 120 King Street from 7 to 9 p.m. And the guest is yet to be determined for August 27th, but we also will have the open mic portion from 8 to 9 p.m. So this is your opportunity to come down and share your stories with us. So that is the Spirits with Spirits portion. Exciting news, Giving Up the Ghost podcast will be special guests at the Ghosts or S'mores and Ghosts at Fort La Reine Museum in Portage La Prairie. Thank you to Cindy for inviting us out. Going to be a lot of cool things happening at that event. We're going to sit around the campfire, old school, and we're going to talk about spirits and all that cool spookiness stuff. And also the place is really, really haunted, if you didn't know, like highly active. And in saying that, we're going to go for a little tour beforehand. There's even going to be a tarot reader on site. So, that's uber cool. And did you count how many times I said cool in this intro? Anyway, gotta run. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. And as always, please reach out to us with any ghost stories. If you just want to say hi, reach out, share stories with us. Certainly do at givinguptheghostpodcast@gmail.com. And as always, remember to live every day like it is your last, but never give up the ghost. Ciao for now. Oh yeah, no.
Hi everybody, we're going to get started right away. It's already 7:05. So still feel free to grab your drinks, get your liquid courage. We do have a whiteout board on the front here at the stage. If you aren't comfortable throwing up your hand in case we don't see you, feel free to write your name on the board and we'll call you up.
Hello everybody, we're going to continue, we're going to start officially.
That one is, this is the podcast one?
Oh, yeah.
Hello. Hello.
Oh, it's working.
So we're going to get going here
really
because
short.
it's already about 10 after 7 while we wait for other people to get their beverages and their liquid courage. Just start the evening here. Again, thank you for everybody who came out. Really, truly, from the bottom of our heart, thank you so much for coming out to our event, Spirits with Spirits. Beautiful place, beautiful haunted venue, the King's Head Pub. Thank you to the King's Head for having us back. Our 3rd time, 3 times a lucky charm. Woo. My name is Jazz. My name's Jazz. I'm with Giving Up the Ghost podcast, Winnipeg's first and only paranormal podcast. If you've been here before, you're going to hear it again. We've been doing this 6.5 years, me and my partner Cher. We're downloaded in 43 countries. 211 episodes. We do just specifically Winnipeg and Manitoba ghost stories because, man, you know, Manitoba, Winnipeg are haunted AF, right? So with saying that, and actually here's a new thing of my spiel, my shtick that I can mention. We're quite often on feedspot.com's top 10 best Canadian paranormal podcasts, and they emailed me this last week and said we are the best Canadian paranormal podcast. Thank you. So my partner is a little bit of an introvert, so she doesn't come out to these events, and that's why I have these lovely ladies.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ashley from Winnipeg Paranormal Group.
And I'm Kelly from Winnipeg Paranormal Group.
Thank you so much for coming out. We love seeing all the new faces and all the regulars. Thank you so much. And thank you to our bar staff tonight. Hopefully you guys keep them busy.
Great. And as Ashley said before, because the first hour we're going to have our special guest speaking. The second hour, this is your turn. This is where you get to entertain us, or scare the shit out of us, or whatever you want to say. That will be the open mic portion. And you know what? It's a very inviting environment. We do not judge. You come up if you want to tell your story. There's no good story, no bad story, but we're here for you. So it's a very cathartic event. We have supplied a whiteboard this round, so that way we can have a little bit more. It was like a little chaotic last time. The lights were on us so bright we couldn't see people putting up their hands. So hopefully that's going to take care of that, and everybody gets a turn to come up. And I apologize, and I feel bad for the couple that didn't actually get that opportunity to come up. However, we have the whiteboard. We invite you to come up and put your name after you've had a few wobbly pops, and however you have a go at it. Thank you. Great. Oh, do you want me to introduce?
No, I can.
You go for it.
So as many of you, if you saw our post, Matthew Komus is our special guest tonight. He is the author of Haunted Manitoba and Haunted Winnipeg. He does exchange district walks. He's a really awesome person, and we're really, really happy to have you out tonight. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'll start because I'm pretty yucky if you don't want to know that. Yeah. So Matthew, again, thank you for coming out, and mostly, you carry quite a bit of wealth of information with respects to haunted locations in and around the city, especially the Exchange District, right? You've got your walking tour. How long have you been doing the walking tour?
So the walking tour has been running over 15 years now. So it's the oldest walking tour for paranormal in the city.
And is it just like around Halloween time, or is it all year round, or?
We tend to focus on the fall, especially Halloween time, but sometimes people can do special bookings other times, but September, October is our busy time for sure.
Keep that in mind, special bookings, so we get like a large crowd and call up Matthew.
10 people, nice. Or willing to pay for 10 people, right. either works.
There's no freebies here. So with respects to your, I'm going to go way back. I'm not going to ask your age, I don't know how old you are. I'm just going to say way back, what sparked your interest in the paranormal and ghosts most specifically?
I think like most people, I was interested in it when I was a kid. I remember reading a lot of, ghost stories, though not necessarily local stories, and always having this interest, but doing it as a profession was completely by accident. I was working as a tour guide. I've been a tour guide, so you don't have to ask the age, but over 20 years. So it gives you some idea how long I've been doing this. And the number one question I would get on history tours was not, what was this building for? Who built it? How old is it? No, the number one question was, does it have a ghost? And you get that question hundreds, maybe thousands of times on tours. So I realized there was an interest. And it started after I'd worked with the art gallery on a modernist architecture tour, which was not popular. We had 12 people take the tour over an entire summer, and realized, to try something different. The ghost tour, it was freezing cold, it was pouring rain our very first night, and there were 20 people waiting in the rain.
Wow, that's awesome. It just tells you a lot, really.
So, have you ever experienced any of these stories?
Oh, that was my question.
Okay. So you stole the question.
Great minds, Kelly.
Yes.
So there is one, not an exchange, but at the oldest house in Winnipeg, Seven Oaks House.
Ooh, I love that house.
And I used to work there as a guide just over 20 years ago. And we would hear strange things. You'd hear, footsteps in old buildings. They creak, they make noise. But then, one day we heard something smashing, shattering to the floor, which is the worst sound to hear if you're in a museum. You won't work long in museums if that's happening.
That and the liquor store.
Yes, both seem to
That's
fit.
true.
And we didn't find anything. But I would say the strangest one, I was with my coworker who absolutely does not believe in ghosts. And we're sitting inside and we could hear someone walking. I don't know if anyone's been to the house before, but it's got one of those big, long front porches. And we heard someone walking along the porch, and we had put down some ant poison on the yard. So we were concerned if they went onto the yard, or if they had a dog with them or something. So I went out the door immediately to tell them about the poison, and the porch was empty. Now my coworker followed by 2 seconds later, and he's like, "Oh, where's the person?" I'm like, "Yeah, I thought I heard someone walking here." And he's like, "Oh no, someone walked here." He's like, "I'm 100% sure someone was walking on the porch." I'm like, "Well, no one's here now." So he goes one direction, I go the other. We circle the house. We're checking behind bushes. We're going everywhere. There is nobody on the property. We're absolutely sure no one was on the property. Both of us swear that we hear these footsteps. He's still not sure if he believes in ghosts, but I'm still in contact with him 20 years later. He still vividly remembers this incident. So can't say I've necessarily seen a ghost, but definitely have heard some strange things.
And in this coworker, how did he explain it? What did
He doesn't. He doesn't.
He didn't try to say book levitated or anything like that?
No, he's I don't know, maybe he believes in ghosts now, but he doesn't have an explanation.
So your coworker doesn't believe in ghosts, but do you?
I'm open. I've encountered some strange things. The role I take is very much a storyteller, someone who collects stories from haunted buildings. I've never really been interested in the paranormal investigation, but because of my work, I've been on a few investigations and worked with a few people. But I definitely, there's some things that we just haven't been able to explain for sure.
I think this is where I forgot to ask last time. I'm a little bit of a shit disturber. Who all believes in ghosts? Put up your hand. I'm not going to go like this, but that's a lot of people, so that's awesome.
Do we have any skeptics in here tonight? We're just like, my wife dragged me here.
You don't pay attention to him. I can't take him anywhere. So, and now maybe this can lead us back to your books. So that must have been a lot of work, right? Gathering your stories and,
Yeah, it took a long time. The foundation sort of came from the tour, and I was fortunate someone I knew was working as an editor at a publisher, and they were hoping to do something on the paranormal. So she's like, "Oh, I know someone." So they're like, "Why don't you write a few chapters, see?" So I put that together. They gave a couple suggestions, and then they offered to do the book. So a lot of going through archives, newspaper archives. I've spent a great deal of time, and the first book, which really, it's been out 10 years now, was still going through the microfiche. Now it's all online, but part of me sometimes misses really digging into those old files. I love interviewing people. That's my favorite way to get stories. But it is the hardest way to find people, and when you do find people, to find someone willing to be interviewed is extra difficult. And I try to explore as many of the buildings as I can. There's a couple locations in haunted Manitoba I've not been to, but I really try to physically get to the site and scout it out. So it does take a lot of time.
Oh, for sure. Not that you have to pick children, like what your favorite child is, but of the two books, is there one that you are more attached to than the other?
Yeah, well, I would say probably maybe Haunted Winnipeg, just because it is my first. It also sells slightly better than the other. But they're both, and I think they're both kind of different. And the Winnipeg buildings I was very familiar with. The Manitoba ones I had to spend a lot more time even just finding the buildings. And there's parts of the province that are not well represented because I couldn't get any stories. And Occasionally, I've had the opportunity to work as a guide in Churchill, not doing ghost tours. And I was really hoping to get a Churchill ghost story, and I tried 4 or 5 people up there, and no luck. So I don't know if there are no ghosts in Churchill or if just no one's sharing it, but...
Yeah, no, I know from the podcast perspective, because we want Manitoba stories, and we've gotten quite a few from like Portage La Prairie, Brandon, and all Rapid City, and all these places. Check all this on our catalog. But I know as well, when people say like from the Thompson area, it's very haunted, especially those highways and everything. A lot of spooky stuff, a lot of Wendigo kind of stories and unexplained phenomenon and stuff. And so it's so old up there. Like there would be stories, but I guess it's just finding the right person that's comfortable in sharing. Right?
Yeah, there's still so much of a stigma with these stories. Like that's part of why we're doing events like this tonight, is to try and let people know that this is okay. It's okay to talk about this stuff.
Oh, for sure. And I even tell people when I'm looking for interviews, I'm not interested whether you even believe in it or not. I'm just sort of looking, is there a ghost story? Because the ghost story itself can be part of your town's history, your town's background. And the one that I'd say surprised me the most was Lower Fort Garry. Because usually government buildings were not haunted, click, like that's the end of that. Outside of Catholic churches, that one is an absolute no-go. So, but Lower Fort Garry literally sent me like a folder about I'm exaggerating, an inch thick, but it felt like an inch thick of haunted and paranormal things that they've recorded, they've dealt with. And some of the stuff said, they don't necessarily believe. Or St. Boniface Museum was another example. He's since retired, but their former director, Phil, was great. He doesn't believe in ghosts, but he realizes the power behind ghost stories and the history that ghost stories connect to. Yeah. So he was very, very happy to share all the ghost stories that they had heard and collected. So.
Yes. Like, even with the podcast, the reason why we started the podcast was we never found stories about Winnipeg and Manitoba. They just kind of vanish, right? Like, everything just kind of goes and vanishes. You don't hear about those stories anymore, about that haunted house down the street from you. Like the hand-to-hand stories. I'm not talking necessarily about, the well-publicized, like Fort Garry Hotel or Seven Oaks. I mean, those are great stories and great places as well. But I mean, like, there's some like really creepy shit out there that I want to know, and I want to be able to perpetuate it and make sure that it's there for the next generation or two. I mean, I drive down the street, that place is haunted. That place is haunted. Just like you go to the bar or a restaurant and it's like you get a vibe and you ask the waitress, have you ever seen any weird stuff happen here? You got to ask questions. I mean, we're all curious beings, so I mean, it's nice to be able to share it, and know it, and I mean, not be afraid of it by any means. So, and there I go ranting and babbling again. But any questions from that?
You already asked some of the questions that I wanted to ask, the obvious questions that they ask us all the time. No, I travel as much as I can. Is that something that you do when you're traveling? Do you request to, or do you travel across Canada or the U.S. or anywhere and try and find some of these places?
I haven't done a lot of to travel to research. I do enjoy travel, and I always try to. And there's almost always the local ghost tour or tours, so I do try to seek that out. Vancouver's had some interesting one. Victoria was another one. I've heard a lot. I've never been there yet. I'm hoping to get to Scotland, and Edinburgh apparently has some of the best ghost tours in the world. So that's definitely on my bucket list to get to.
Cool.
Would you stay in a haunted hotel room? Would you stay in 202?
Yes, yeah. I guess that's a question I get asked fairly often with ghosts, and when you deal with ghost stories, and when I explore a lot of these buildings, sometimes very large empty buildings, often on my own. There are many things I am afraid of. I joked with someone, I really don't like flying, but going through a haunted building does not bother me. It sounds silly, but it's the job, I guess, to some extent.
We get asked that all the time too. Like, well, on our investigations, people are like, well, doesn't this scare you? And it's like, no, it actually like, it interests me, it enthralls me, and I run towards these stories. I want to know more.
It's definitely an
I wanna know why.
adrenaline rush.
Like for me, I won't fly. I won't, if I, give me a haunted building, let a ghost touch me. I'm good with that, that's fine.
Very much the same way. I've taken trains for 40 hours to avoid a flight. But I will gladly go to a graveyard at midnight. That does not bother me.
Would you mind sharing some stories from the Exchange District, since we did cover the King's Head Pub our first night, of course, out of homage, and but since you're well familiar, would you like to share any stories with some of the folks here?
Yeah, for sure. One would be Pantages Theatre, which sounds like it might be getting reopened. Unfortunately, it's been closed for about 5-6 years now. It's an old vaudeville theater, for those not familiar. And I don't, just by actually show hands, how many people have been to the Pantages before? Okay, so quite a number. And it was a very busy theater until it closed. So they think they have 3 different ghosts haunting the one building. 2 which they think they may know who they are, and the 3rd ghost is far more mysterious. And if this goes too long, just let me know. Okay.
You're good.
So the first ghost, which apparently is not seen very often, is a woman in an old style dress that is the only spirit, I've been told, in the Exchange that you can see from outside of a building. She walks past the windows. So if you were, I don't know if the bus stop is still there, because they've moved all the bus stops. See if people are not still there. Okay. So if you were on Market waiting for the bus at night and you see someone looking out the window, that may be the ghost, especially since the building is not in use right now. They said they see her next to the photocopier, and apparently that has nothing to do with the ghost, but that's just where they tend to find her, was by a photocopier.
That's purgatory right there.
Yeah.
I gotta make another copy.
So a little more frequent is a ghost in the auditorium itself. He is sometimes seen, or sometimes they just think he's responsible for unexplained things. For example, he'll be in the balcony. One staff member said they were cleaning up after a show. They saw him sitting in the balcony. They thought it was really strange. Why is he still here? So they called out to him saying that they were closed, and said he appeared to get up, almost start to run, and as he ran, he just vanished from sight. Other times people say they've heard him clapping, laughing. They'll smell like a strong cigar smell coming from the space. Of course, you're not allowed to smoke in the building. And they think he pulls pranks. One person was cleaning up on stage, and she would see the curtain was waving, like flapping back and forth. And she approached the curtain, couldn't figure out, is this a draft, a wind, like what is going on here? As she got within about a foot of the curtain, it basically just wrapped itself around her. That startled her, but she said she just kind of laughed and it went back into place. And apparently staff at the Pantages said if you ignore it or if you laugh it off, it stops. If you scream or freak out, it continues or it intensifies. So that was kind of their advice, basically, for handling their spirits. You could do that too. So they think these ghosts could be the owner of the theater, and this is where I love digging into the history, because Pantages Theater, he owned a whole chain of theaters, but he liked to audition performers in Winnipeg. Basically sit up there, watch the acts. If they were great, you might get to tour his whole circuit. If he didn't like you or the crowd didn't like you, you were fired and stranded in Winnipeg. So he was pretty sort of harsh, so they think it's possibly his spirit there. The woman is less known, but my theory on this is he had met a woman called Klondike Kate, a very actually well-known figure in Canadian history, if anyone's familiar with the Yukon. Klondike Kate effectively made a lot of money during the gold rush. Pantages was up there working for her, decided not to risk his life finding gold, got a job in her dance hall, and they fall in love. They're going to start a new life together. They're going to open their very own theater. Kate lends Pantages all the money she made. He goes down, opens the very first Pantages theater, and marries another woman. So people were not happy with, or Kate was understandably not happy with him. Yes. Well, and she basically follows him for the rest of his life. She sues him. She testifies against him when he was involved in a criminal trial many, years and years later. And some people think it's her ghost because what is now offices used to be the private apartment for the theater owner. And I actually had someone on a tour once. Her grandparents, this is many years after Pantages, her grandparents managed the theater in the 50s. And it was still an apartment, and she loved her grandparents, but said it was a very strange place to go for a sleepover at the Pantages Theater. So.
I gotta say, I'm rooting for Kate. You go, girl.
Yeah, totally.
I'm watching Gilded Age right now on HBO. I'm addicted, and I just see this in my mind, right? The whole drama. Because he was from San Francisco or something, I think, wasn't he?
He traveled through there. Initially, he was from Greece, but there's different versions, whether he was somewhere between 9 to 12 years old when he was kind of on his own. So, but he was along California a lot too. So. And then the third spirit is the one that scares the staff the most, and they don't seem to really know the identity at all. Odd question, but has anyone ever been in the basement of the Pantages Theater? Okay. Why I ask is it's used by dance groups a lot, would rent it out. So sometimes people in dance have been in the basement. It's creepy. It has not changed very much. The dressing rooms are in place. There's a trap door that magicians used to use. There's tunnels. There's a crawl space. Came across a giant rat there once. It's not a ghost rat, just
there.
Creepy. Yeah. Part of the risks of the job. And staff have been down there, usually cleaning up the dressing rooms, and said they've seen a young girl walking the hallways. One person thought it could be a staff member's kid until they said they clearly realized it was not. It was a spirit. But this girl was terrifying them enough they actually brought in a psychic who talked about some sort of tragic accident or fire. Now, there's no record of something like that happening in the theater, but the theater was built in 1914, and Winnipeg had already, especially downtown Winnipeg, would have had buildings for a good 30, 40 years before that. So some people think she's probably connected to a house or store or something that was on the site previous to the theater. But they really don't know who she is, except the two ghosts upstairs don't seem to scare staff as much, but the girl really terrifies people. And that's where I would say a strange encounter. I'm not sure if this was a ghost experience. I was giving a tour of the building, completely unconnected to paranormal. It dealt with architecture and theater history. And it was in the evening, so it was dark outside. The group had left, and I realized I'd forgotten to turn the lights off in the basement. Now, the problem in the basement is it's a very long hallway, and for whatever reason, the stairs are at one end, and the light switch is at the opposite end.
Of course. Why is it always like that?
Now, I just mentioned how I don't tend to get, freaked out by this, but in this particular case, you're walking down the hallway, you turn off the lights, so there's the fire exit sign, and this is before, I didn't have a smartphone, I didn't have a flashlight, so you're walking through the dark hallway, don't see anything, but I get on stage, and in the middle of the stage was a hat, like an old style kind of fedora hat. Now, I'm positive there was no hat on the stage because we had been on the stage with the group. We had taken some photos on the stage. There's no sets, no costumes, no props, just one hat, dead center on the stage, right where we'd taken this photo, and nobody had hats in the group. No one was posing with any sort of props or costumes. And I'm thinking, where did this hat come from? I'm sure it wasn't here 5 minutes ago when I walked across the stage. It's now sitting center stage, super obvious. And I'm trying to figure this out, and I just decide it's late. I'm in the theater completely by myself. I don't really need to know, and I went home.
Time to leave.
Yeah.
Call it a night. And so I know everybody knows the infamous Burton Cummings Theater. Did you want to leave with that? Would you have some stories?
Sure. I mean, the Burton Cummings, I feel, is one of the sort of classic ghost stories, but what I love with my research is trying to tie it to the actual history and events. And when I first set out to do tours or even the book, a lot of people would tell me, this place is haunted because 20 people were chopped up by an axe murderer there. It would be amazing how often you'd get the axe murderer story. And then you do a little research and you're like, oh, this is really odd that no newspaper thought to cover, this sort of crime. So what I really like with the Bird and Cummings, or what used to be called the Walker Theatre, is it's meant to be haunted by a famous performing couple, Mabel Hackney and Lawrence Irving. Names, unless maybe if you're really into ghosts, you might have heard of, but they would have been like A-list celebrities 100 plus years ago. Nowadays, no one really knows who they were. They did a big North American tour. They were from England, performed their final performance on the Winnipeg stage. Very eager to get home to England, so they take a train out of Winnipeg to Quebec. In Quebec, they board the Empress of Ireland, a large passenger ship, much like the Titanic. It starts heading out. A very heavy fog comes in. In the fog, a Norwegian freighter does not see the Empress and crashes right into the side. There is no time really to escape. It's not like the Titanic where they didn't have enough lifeboats. They just ran out of time, and over 1,000 people perish. It's a disaster that very few people know about. In fact, more passengers die on it than on the Titanic. And Lawrence Irving and Mabel, they were celebrities. People saw them. The stories are he was telling his wife, don't worry, dear, we'll be all right. We're going to get out of this. Tragically, that's not what happened. His body was found floating in the water. Her body was never found. And they say they repeat that performance on stage at the Walker. Sometimes people say they just stand on the stage, not doing anything. Other people have talked about seeing them almost dancing or moving around the stage. Very commonly, they seem to go through sort of the brick wall, but they've been spotted many, many times on that stage. And in fact, if you go there for a show or a concert, look in the lobby. It's still there. It's been up for over 100 years. There is a plaque in their memory on the wall. So to me, it's sort of almost like a movie ghost story. So that one I really like.
I know actually somebody who works there, and she says there is so much activity that goes on that staff actually refuse to work by themselves because of it. It's a really amazing building.
I've been touched there.
Oh, really?
No,
I won't comment on it.
No, I was there with 3 other people. We were there for Jesse Cook, and we were exiting, and people were mulling around. And you know how you have the main doors and you have that side door, right? So me and the one friend, we kind of got ahead of the other 2, and there was, it was kind of weird because as packed as the theater is, especially when it's time to leave and everything, people are like going for all the exit and stuff. It was just me and my friend, and we're walking, and again, we're waiting, kind of walking slow for the other 2, and then I felt a hand. When somebody guides you along, like to push you, like kind of okay, come with me, come with us. And I thought it was the 2 friends. I thought, no, nobody there. So I guess, it wanted me out. It did not like me there. Or just didn't like me waiting. I don't know. But yeah, it's just, with respects to the 2 that perished on the boat, I believe because they were so well received here, they promised the Winnipeggers, right? They said, we'll be back. We'll be back.
Yeah, exactly. They wanted to. And the theory is, it's sort of putting that final performance on, over and over. And you are right, that building has many, many stories, a lot coming from security guards, from staff. Theater staff often do work, late. As you say, when the show ends, they're still there cleaning up and finishing up.
They don't like the basement whatsoever. And backstage, apparently. Those are the 2 areas.
There as well as security, and I didn't like going to the basement either.
Fair?
Yeah. I didn't mind the basement. Does anyone remember the haunted house they had there about maybe 10 years back where they did like this thing set up? Remember that? And they had all these things you went through and the actors and whatever. And they had a lot of it. Well, all of it was in the basement. I didn't mind it. I was kind of hoping something would have happened.
No, maybe it's because you were with so many people.
Well, yeah, there was too much going on. For sure, too much going on. But it's so old, right? There's like it's still like a mud floor down there. It's a dirt floor.
Yeah, I think it's 1904, 1905. Because it was actually built not to be a vaudeville theater, of which Winnipeg had many, but to introduce Winnipeggers to like the ballet, the opera, the symphony. So it's on its own is kind of a fascinating history.
And are there any other stories that are of interest you think you'd like to share?
I'm trying to think of. I was trying to think if there was one in Exchange that's not in the book, but I feel like most really are now. I still try to collect stories at someone. This is one I'm kind of working on right now with the Lindsay building. I don't know if anyone's familiar with. I see a few people nodding. I ended up talking to a caretaker there who said that he was seeing things, hearing almost like orbs or things floating, and also hearing a lot of sounds. So that's one I'm really hoping, because it's it's kind of right on the border of the Exchange. So I'm hoping to try to do a little more research for that. And it's interesting, because some buildings we have so many stories, and other people will ask me about a particular building, like an old building, and I'll be like, never heard a single story about that location.
So does that mean you have another book in the works?
There is likely another book in the works. This one, actually, there is another book in the works, but it's slightly different. I do hope to do another one with more Winnipeg, Manitoba. When I wrote the book, I was not writing it for any particular audience. And what I found, or what my publisher found, is the books are very popular amongst young adults. So my publisher would actually like me to do the next book targeted at young adults. So it's going to be all across Canada. There's going to be, much like my current books, it's going to have the historic location with the bit of the history and the ghost stories. So one story for each province and territory, and it's kind of tying it together. There's going to be a bit of a narrative, which my previous books haven't had. So it's I got to finish it now.
Now you'll said it.
Yeah, now this is the biggest. I've told a few people, but this is by far the biggest crowd that's heard about the next book. So
That's awesome. I do have one more question for you, though. What is your favorite ghost story? Like your absolute just.
Oh, that is a good question. I'm not sure if I have a favorite story. I think my favorite place probably does go back to Seven Oaks. Just because I worked there, I had my own experiences there. At least 12 people have died in the house, which sounds really high, but it's the oldest house in Winnipeg. There were no hospitals. There was, it's just sort of the reality of a over 150, I guess about 170-year-old home. And just so many little things, so many stories have happened there. Someone died at the dining room table, so it seems to give a good. He was said to haunt the dining room, and then finding the proof of this all happening was quite interesting. So that would be my favorite location. I'd have to think about stories.
Is there somewhere that you still want to go? Do you have a list of places that you still, like Ashley and I are always compiling a list of places we want to go?
Yeah, why not? I'll mention this one. I've heard stories. I have a friend, well, I won't say names here, but St. Charles School's a very old school on the edge of the city. Because it is a Catholic school, they don't want to do the ghosts. But they'll have caretakers that refuse to go to sections in the school, refuse to go upstairs. They'll have people quit because of things that have happened when they were working as cleaners and caretakers. Right. And it's a very old school, and I happen to know someone who had worked there previously, and they had an abandoned swimming pool, almost a whole abandoned section, which was kind of fascinating. So, but yeah, there's been a few places that have often politely, when I've asked not to be, and I really do try to respect that for tours and books. If they don't want it to be public, I get that.
We do too, but I do have relatives who work in different Catholic schools here, so they tell me stories all the time about things that happen, and they have to have people come in and keep blessing the place because there's so much activity.
Well, they're the oldest schools, really, or some of the oldest buildings.
Yeah.
The Salt Market goes up on the stock exchange,
There's always some interesting stories around Catholic schools.
Definitely.
Speaking of Seven Oaks.
Speaking of Seven Oaks, we actually have some investigations coming up at Seven Oaks. So we're going to be there on August 16th. That event is sold out. But we also have one coming up on September 12th, I believe it is. Yes.
I gotta look at my calendar.
I've got so many events on my mind. So we're going to be heading back to Seven Oaks House after we haven't been there in a couple years, so we're really excited to have been invited back.
That's one of our favorite houses
It is.
as well.
I've had so many experiences there. I highly recommend everybody here, go check it out, whether it's on our investigations, or one of their events, or just
Or one of your tours.
One of your tours. I know you do one around Halloween.
Yeah, we're setting the dates actually this week, so it'll probably be a little bit later, September, and it's quite different. We don't do the paranormal investigation part, but we do storytelling in the house and in the surrounding neighborhood. So.
I love that. Last question for you before we open it up for Q&A. How do people get a hold of you if they want to sign up for these events?
Great question. Winnipeg Ghost Walk is my website. That's usually the best way. You can message me on Facebook, but I got to be completely honest. I'm really slow sometimes at responding.
I think I'm still waiting.
quite
You're
possibly.
one of those people.
It's okay.
But Winnipeg Ghost Walk, and you can also from that site send an email to reach out. That's probably the Winnipeg Ghost Walk.
I love it. Awesome. So remember, Winnipeg Ghost Walk. Come check out Matthew's tours. So do we have any questions for Matthew? Don't be shy. Feel free to come on up so we can all hear you.
Sorry. What kinds of methods do you use to see if a place is haunted? Do you have any devices or methods that you use?
I don't tend to go that route. I'm more a collector of the stories. I have sometimes been with paranormal investigators, but I myself don't tend to do sort of devices. If people are sharing stories, I kind of take them at their word. There's been a couple times. There was one building that's since actually burned down, which maybe fits, which was right by just off of behind Carleton, again downtown, and there was all these stories, but even CBC called me about it. But when we dug a little deeper, it felt like it was someone's creative writing project.
Is that the demon house?
That is the
Yeah,
demon house,
yeah,
and it
that
kind of
was
hit a very
crazy.
hard dead end with
So did we.
Yeah.
so I feel, and dead end with no pun intended. It just didn't seem to be haunted, and now that it burned to the ground, which seems fitting, I guess, for demon house, I have not heard any stories from that spot. So I kind of just try to see how much is there, type of thing.
Well, maybe these ladies can answer the question what they use for their.
We use a whole bunch of different tools. We use metaphysical, so like your pendulums, Ouija boards, dowsing rods, and as well we use a whole bunch of different scientific, not really scientific, but
Yeah, I hate it when they call them
Equipment.
scientific.
We
'Cause
use
really,
equipment,
are they?
so-
It's like if you watch any of those ghost shows, like we have a lot of those,
Yeah.
a lot of the
DVR.
equipment, and they're coming out with equipment constantly.
Cat balls.
cat balls, yeah.
Yep,
Simple
cat
things.
balls.
You don't need the best and the highest priced equipment to do ghost hunting. We find, for the most part, if you have a phone, you're good to start.
Yeah.
You've got your camera, you've got a recorder, and there are some okay apps out there to use. There's not a lot that we recommend for app-wise, but there are a few.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then yourself, you yourself are an amazing tool for investigations. It's really important to pay attention to how you feel with different emotions or temperature changes or anything like that going through your body.
Or sacrifice farm, those.
No, it's called ghost bait.
Oh, sorry.
Ghost
That's
bait.
Jess.
Anybody else have more questions for Matthew?
Yes.
There's stories behind that old spaghetti factory home on Ellis, I believe that's where it is. It's still closed down. Does it have anything to do with, I don't know what's going on with that building?
Oh, do you mean maybe Mother Tucker's?
Mother Tucker's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, the old spaghetti factory is actually right outside this building where they used to be. Mother Tucker's has piles and piles of stories. Unfortunately, it has been closed for well over a decade. The owner has done a lot to try to restore the exterior, but they've gutted the interior. So I don't know if there's still, if we're still going to hear things, but it just hasn't been used in a long time. It was a very common spot, people said, for hearing sounds, but also objects moving about, and actually seeing ghosts too was common. An older gentleman was spotted a lot. Another person said they saw basically like a couple go right through the dining room. And the strangest one I was told was about floating eyeballs. Not an entire head, just the eyes. So many stories, but it'll be interesting to see if it gets kind of reopened, if we'll start to hear those stories again.
I know there is it's up for lease.
Yeah.
I have some theories on that I won't voice, but.
It's been up for lease for a very long time. Yeah.
Yes.
Are you familiar with the building in Assiniboine Park, the Fire Paramedic 911 call center? Police used to be in there as well.
I am not actually for that one.
Okay. The reason I asked is I used to work there, and there's a gym in the basement. Also a very creepy basement, long hallway, flickering lights, nightmare stuff. And there was no one liked going down there. It did have a creepy vibe. And I used to go down there and work out. And one time I went down there and they had a heavy bag. Because the police used to work down there too. And it was swinging quite violently.
Wow.
But if you know heavy bags, they will swing for a long time. So I didn't see anybody come up from there. But I asked around, and apparently a lot of people that worked there said that they had seen things moving down there. And then the story was is that building, and I don't think it's that old, but there used to be a nunnery, and that a nun hung herself there. Like a classic ghost story, right?
And sorry, this was Assiniboine Park?
Yeah, right in Assiniboine.
We'll have to talk to Kelly.
Yeah. The 911 call center is based out of there.
Okay.
For the fire paramedics.
Yeah. No, I'm not familiar with that one at all.
Okay, I wondered if it really, I tried to look it up actually to see, I Google searched it, that's how I
Well,
but I couldn't get any information on what it was.
we have a contact at Assiniboine Park, so we'll reach out and see if maybe she has any history on it.
I'd be very curious to know.
That'll be your next.
Are you girls investigating at Assiniboine Park again? This
We
year?
are, yeah.
We are.
Twice in October, we'll be at Assiniboine Park.
Check the website. Any other questions for Matthew?
Yes.
What, if anything, do you know about the ghost at MTC?
MTC, kind of two different versions.
Okay.
One is the ghost of George, which is a pretty well-known
George.
known ghost. And George is a little controversial because his backstory is probably not entirely true. Some MTC staff swear that George is there. Other MTC staff is a little more skeptical. But they've also just had strange things that don't seem to be connected. George, for those who may not know, is the ghost of a young boy who's known for being more playful and jokes and pranks and that sort of thing. But a former house manager talked about having a spirit scream at him on one occasion, being in with students one night and having a variety of strange things happening with electronics and lights. Their audio system also created for their enhanced kind of hearing system, if for people who are hard of hearing, was known, and one play about ghosts kept cutting out at the exact same moment, and this happened apparently at least a dozen times, when a person talked about the death of their daughter and how their daughter had then basically came back as a ghost. So they've had a lot of kind of strange things there that they don't seem to connect to George, which is a much more sort of traditional sort of ghost story connected to the building. And they think their ghost might have moved with them. So this brings up the theory whether a spirit can move. They're not sure they're connected to their current space. They think it goes back to their old location, which was a old vaudeville theater much closer to Portage in Maine. So.
Well, I mean, if they're connected to items, I mean, if the item goes.
We discussed that, was it last time, or the one, little transient spirits, a lot of people assume you have to die someplace for it to be haunted, but that's not it at all.
Haunted items. Haunted items. Always interesting. Yes, right in front here.
Which cemetery has the most ghost stories in Winnipeg?
That's a good question. I've definitely heard some from St. Boniface, again being really old. Elmwood would be up there too. I have not heard I think it's St. James by Polo Park. I have not really heard stories from that one, interesting enough, but Elmwood, St. Boniface are, I would say, the two that seem to have the most, and St. John's, along near sort of Scotia Street there. That cemetery does have a lot of stories, including, actually, I was doing a bike ghost tour there, and we, in this case, it would stumble across the caretaker, who proceeded to share a couple, wondered who was this group of cyclists there at 10 o'clock at night. And there's probably like 30 of us, so, but then he actually shared a couple stories about that spot.
St. Andrews, that's the one I've heard the most of.
St. Andrews does have a lot. St. Andrews is one of the places, though, that really does ask people not to go to their property to investigate. Yeah.
They even asked us, like, because we did an investigation at the rectory, so they asked us to make sure that it was known, like, when people are done the investigation, you're leaving. You're not going to the church or the cemetery or anything like that. Like, it was not included in the investigation.
Do not trespass.
Yeah, so that's a place, because they unfortunately, the legend involved people being there at midnight, and they started to have vandalism to the cemetery and church. So
what a lot of people don't realize with the Elmwood Cemetery is actually that our first serial killer, Earl Nelson, his 2 Winnipeg victims are buried in Elmwood Cemetery.
And some people think for Vaughan Street Jail that Earl Nelson could be a spirit there. So.
Cool, very cool. Pretty cool, as we say on campus. What time are we at?
5-2. Do we have
Any more
any
questions?
more questions? Yes, over there at the back, middle. You. By the green light.
You.
Are your books available as audiobooks?
They are not. I've had a few people ask. They're available as ebooks, but so far not audiobooks. Maybe that's something we need to look at. And I do have, with the books, I do have some copies for sale tonight, if anyone is interested. Also, they tend to be carried through McNelly, Chapters. You can find them online, but I always encourage, to try to support local. And it's Great Plains Publishing, or Great Plains Press now, I guess, is the publisher behind
I
them.
believe even Raven Ends Books has a couple of your, a couple of reviews for you.
All right, yeah, it's good to hear.
All right, so we are going to take a very short break. So feel free, fill up your drinks, order some food. We do have some amazing merchandise on the side. We have Erin here from Ace Oddities, so feel free to come and check things out. Matthew's got his books on the side. Feel free to come and ask us some more questions. And remember to sign up if you want to do some open mic ghost stories.
And because I'm so generous, I just like to give. Podcasting makes no money, just remember that. We're going to do 2 draws. I have a nice little prize pack. We have an official sponsor for tonight. Woo! Woo! It's Dead Horse Cider. Thank you to the kind folks from Dead Horse Cider. A delicious beverage. They've donated some beautiful glassware, so I have one gift package with 2 of their glasses and some other swaggy little things in there. So you can either pick that, draw your name, put your name in for a draw there, and then also I'll donate a T-shirt from my table with my lovely and talented spouse over there selling my merch. So we'll have 2 draws for that, so you can pick one or the other. So please fill out a ballot for the draw. And she said that. We said Erin.
I think Erin has something to say.
Erin has something to say.
I'll donate to that.
Aw,
that's
thank
very
you.
cute.
Thanks, Erin.
Round of applause for Erin.
You're awesome.
So again, don't be afraid. We're you know what? This is a great venue, a great opportunity. Please, sign up for the ghost story portion. We'll take about a 10-15 minute break. And most of all, thank you to Matthew Komus for coming.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you for having me.